Hello and welcome to Sleeping Well Insights. I'm Clara, and today marks the beginning of our journey exploring the fascinating world of sleep through the lens of English language learning.
And I'm Leo. I'm super excited to be co-hosting this series with you, Clara. I've always been intrigued by how something we all do every day, sleeping, can be so rich with vocabulary and expressions.
Absolutely, Leo. This podcast series is designed to enhance your English vocabulary and conversation skills while diving into the art and science of sleeping well. In each episode, we'll explore different aspects of sleep through engaging discussions, idiomatic expressions, and practical language applications.
Perfect for anyone looking to improve their English fluency while getting some genuinely useful insights about healthy sleep practices. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to sleep better, right?
Today's episode is all about the language of sleep basics. We'll cover essential terminology, common expressions, and vocabulary you need to discuss sleep habits confidently in English.
I'm particularly looking forward to learning some of those colorful sleep idioms. I've always wondered why we say things like hitting the hay when we go to bed. Most of us aren't farmers anymore.
That's a great point, Leo. Language often preserves these historical references long after they've stopped being literally relevant. We'll definitely explore idioms like that later in our episode.
Awesome. So what's first on our sleep language journey?
Let's start with essential sleep terminology. Understanding the basic vocabulary of sleep cycles helps us discuss sleep quality more precisely. According to sleep science, there are 4 distinct stages of sleep.
4 stages? I always thought it was just asleep or awake. Shows what I know. What are these stages called?
Well, we have 3 stages of non-REM sleep, followed by REM sleep. Non-REM stands for non-rapid eye movement. The first stage is light sleep, where you're just drifting off and can be easily awakened.
Oh, I know that stage well. That's when I'm almost asleep, and then my neighbor's dog decides it's the perfect time for a barking marathon.
Exactly. Then comes stage 2, which is slightly deeper, and stage 3, which is deep non-REM sleep, what the Science of People website calls the deepest level of non-REM sleep. This is when your body does a lot of physical repair work.
So that's when I'm completely out, right? When my partner says I could sleep through an earthquake?
Most likely. And finally, we have REM sleep rapid eye movement, which, according to the National Institute of Health, typically starts about 90 minutes after you fall asleep. During REM, your voluntary muscles actually become paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams.
Wait, my muscles get paralyzed? That's both fascinating and slightly terrifying. Is that why sometimes in nightmares you try to run but feel like you can't move?
That's a common theory, yes. Now, let's talk about how we describe sleep quality in English. We often use adjectives like restful, fitful, or sound sleep.
I had a really fitful sleep last night. I kept waking up thinking I'd forgotten something important. Turns out I was just dreaming about forgetting something. My brain playing tricks on me.
That happens to me too. When we talk about good sleep, we might say, I slept soundly, or I had a restful night. If sleep was poor, we might say, I tossed and turned all night, or I had a restless life.
What about sleep positions? I'm definitely a side sleeper, but my girlfriend is strictly a back sleeper. We're like puzzle pieces that don't quite fit together at night.
Sleep positions are actually a great topic, Leo. The Science of People article 1 was reading suggests that sleeping positions can even reveal aspects of our personality.
Really? So my preference for sleeping curled up like a human cinnamon roll actually says something about me?
That sounds like what's called the fetal position, when you curl your knees toward your chest. It's actually the most common sleeping position. The research suggests people who sleep this way might be tough on the outside, but sensitive on the inside.
That's scarily accurate. Don't tell anyone I admitted that on air. What about back sleepers?
Back sleepers are often described as supine, and some sources suggest they tend to be more confident and self-assured. Stomach sleepers, or those in the prone position, might be more adventurous.
I tried stomach sleeping once and woke up with the worst neck pain of my life. Never again. What about the starfish, arms and legs all spread out, taking up the entire bed?
The starfish position. Yes, that's supposedly linked to being a good listener and not wanting to be the center of attention, though ironically, they take up the most space in bed.
That's hilarious. Hey, speaking of eds, I've been meaning to ask, what terms should I know for all those things that make up a bed? I went shopping recently and was completely lost with all the different types of bedding.
That's part of what we call sleep environment lexicon, the vocabulary for describing where we sleep. Basic terms include mattress, pillows, sheets, comforter or duvet, and pillowcases.
Okay, I know those. But what about all those fancy terms? Like, what exactly is a duvet cover versus a comforter? I stood in the bedding aisle for 20 minutes trying to figure it out.
A duvet is typically a soft, flat bag filled with down or synthetic fibers that you cover with a duvet cover, which is like a giant pillowcase for your duvet. A comforter is similar, but usually comes already covered and doesn't need a separate cover.
Ah, that makes sense now. And what about thread counts? People always brag about high thread count sheets, but I have no idea if that actually matters.
Thread count refers to the number of horizontal and vertical threads per square inch of fabric. Higher thread counts are often marketed as more luxurious, but according to some testing by Wirecutter, once you get above about 300, the difference isn't always noticeable.
I knew it. I bought these super expensive 800 thread count sheets once, and they honestly weren't any better than my regular ones. I felt so ripped off.
The sleep environment is crucially important, though. Harvard Health mentions that retiring to a comfortable environment with minimal disruptions makes it easier to fall asleep and sleep soundly. This includes keeping your bedroom at an optimal temperature, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and minimizing light and noise.
I've been using blackout curtains since I moved next to that 24-hour convenience store with the neon sign. Complete game changer. Though I still haven't figured out how to get my cat to stop walking across my face at 3 a.m.
Pets in the bedroom. Now that's a whole other discussion. Harvard actually recommends having children and pets sleep elsewhere if they disrupt your sleep.
Try telling that to my cat Muffin. She'd stage a full rebellion. But I actually find her purring soothing when she's not attempting to suffocate me.
Now let's talk about how we express our sleep habits in everyday English conversation. There are lots of time expressions related to sleep, like turning in early, sleeping in, or pulling an all-nighter.
Oh, I pulled way too many all-nighters in college. Remember that time during finals week when we stayed up for nearly 48 hours straight? I think I hallucinated that the coffee machine was talking to me.
I forgot about that. That was not our finest moment. And I'm pretty sure the coffee machine was just making those normal gurgling sounds, not giving you life advice.
Hey, that coffee machine told me to switch majors, and it was right. But back to sleep expressions. What about catching some Z's? Where did that even come from?
That's a great question. Catching some Z's comes from the common representation of sleep in comics and cartoons, where a sleeping person is shown with ZZZ coming from them to represent snoring.
That makes so much sense. I never thought about it before. What about hitting the hay or hitting the sack?
Both hitting the hay and hitting the sack have historical origins. Hitting the hay comes from when mattresses were actually stuffed with hay, and people would punch them to soften them up before sleeping. Hitting the sack has a similar origin with sack mattresses.
I'm definitely going to use "I'm about to hit the hay" next time I'm leaving a party early. Sounds much cooler than "I'm tired and want to go to bed."
Another common phrase is "I'm going to turn in for the night," meaning you're going to bed. Or crashing, which implies falling asleep quickly, often due to exhaustion.
I definitely crashed after that marathon I ran last year. I think I fell asleep with my shoes still on.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about discussing sleep problems in English. This vocabulary is particularly useful when you need to describe sleep issues to doctors or even just to friends.
Oh yeah, I had that weird thing for a while where my leg would suddenly jerk right as I was falling asleep. It was driving me crazy, but I didn't know what to call it.
That sounds like hypnic jerks or sleep starts, those sudden muscle contractions that happen as you're drifting off. There are many common sleep disorders with specific names like insomnia, sleep apnea, and restless leg syndrome.
Restless legs, that's what my doctor called it. She said it's this urge to move your legs, especially at night. Makes it really hard to fall asleep.
Exactly. Insomnia refers to difficulty falling or staying asleep. Sleep apnea is when breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep, often accompanied by loud snoring.
My uncle has sleep apnea. He uses one of those CPAP machines, now continuous positive airway pressure, right? It sounds like Darth Vader when he sleeps, but he says he feels so much better during the day.
That's right. And when describing poor sleep experiences, we might use phrases like, "I tossed and turned all night," "I was up at the crack of dawn," or "I didn't sleep a wink."
Or, "I was staring at the ceiling for hours." That's my go-to when I can't sleep. I've memorized every crack in my bedroom ceiling.
According to Pop Sugar, many people categorize themselves as good or bad sleepers. They mention that some people struggle with falling asleep, while others have trouble staying asleep or wake up too early.
I'm definitely in the waking up too early camp these days. It's so frustrating to be wide awake at 4 a.m. when you don't need to be up until 7.
The CDC reports that more than 1/3 of adults in the U.S. don't get enough sleep. 14.5% have trouble falling asleep, and 17.8% have trouble staying asleep. So you're definitely not alone in your sleep struggles, Leo.
Well, that's somewhat comforting. Misery loves company, especially at 4 a.m.
Now let's explore some cultural sleep expressions and idioms. These colorful phrases add richness to conversations about sleep and often reflect cultural attitudes toward rest.
Like sleeping like a log, though I've never understood that one. Logs don't sleep, they just log.
True. The idea is that logs don't move, so someone sleeping like a log is very still and in deep sleep. Similarly, sleeping like a baby suggests peaceful sleep, though parents might argue that babies don't always sleep peacefully.
My sister would definitely argue with that. Her newborn seems to think 3 a.m. is party time. What about catching 40 winks? Where does that come from?
Catching 40 winks refers to taking a short nap. The origin isn't entirely clear, but it dates back to the early 19th century. The number 40 was often used to signify many but not excessive in various expressions.
Fascinating. I'm going to use that at work. Sorry, boss, just catching 40 wings after that lunch meeting. I'm not sure how well that would go over.
Probably not the best career move. Another interesting sleep expression is "the Sandman is coming," referring to the mythical character who sprinkles sand into children's eyes to bring sleep.
Oh, is that related to getting sand in your eyes when you're tired? My grandma used to say that when I was fighting sleep as a kid.
Exactly. Cultural expressions about sleep vary across English-speaking regions too. In British English, you might hear "I'm knackered" to express extreme tiredness, while Americans might say "I'm beat" or "I'm wiped out."
And Australians have their own slang too, right? I think I heard an Australian friend say he was buggered when he was tired, which sounded a bit alarming to my American ears.
Yes, regional variations make learning these expressions interesting, but sometimes confusing. In Canada, you might hear someone say they're bagged when they're tired.
Language is so weird and wonderful. I love how we've developed so many different ways to say essentially the same thing. I need sleep.
Before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to discuss some practical sleep hygiene vocabulary. Sleep hygiene refers to practices that help improve sleep quality.
Sleep hygiene? So like showering before bed, brushing your teeth?
While personal hygiene can be part of it, sleep hygiene more broadly refers to habits and practices that promote good sleep. According to Harvard Health, sleep hygiene includes maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, creating a comfortable sleeping environment, and being mindful of what you consume before bedtime.
Like avoiding caffeine in the evening. I learned that one the hard way after drinking an espresso at 8 p.m. and then lying awake until 3 a.m., contemplating the meaning of life.
Exactly. Other sleep hygiene practices include limiting screen time before bed, establishing a relaxing bedtime routine, and ensuring your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool.
I've been trying that screen time thing, but it's so hard to put the phone down. I always tell myself just one more video and suddenly it's midnight.
It's definitely challenging in our connected world. Experts often recommend the electronic sundown approach, dimming lights, and putting away electronic devices at least an hour before bedtime.
Electronic sundown? I like that term. Makes it sound official and important, which might help me actually do it.
Harvard Health also suggests keeping a sleep diary to identify possible obstacles to good sleep. This can help you recognize patterns that might be affecting your sleep quality.
A sleep diary sounds like a good idea, though I'm pretty sure mine would just say, stayed up too late watching cat videos every night.
Well, that brings us to the end of our first episode of Sleeping Well Insights. We've covered essential sleep terminology, expressions for discussing sleep habits, vocabulary for sleep problems, cultural sleep idioms, and sleep environment terms.
I've learned so much, from the 4 stages of sleep to why we say we're hitting the hay. My personal favorite was discovering that my fetal position sleeping style might actually reveal something about my personality.
It's fascinating how much language surrounds this universal activity, isn't it? Sleep is something we all do, yet the way we talk about it can be so varied and culturally specific.
Absolutely, and I think understanding these terms and expressions really helps English learners participate in everyday conversations more confidently. And listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with friends who are learning English or anyone interested in improving their sleep quality. Language learning and good sleep, 2 things that make life better.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time, sleep well and sweet dreams.
Or as they say in the sleep world, may you always sleep like a log and never toss and turn. Goodbye, everyone.